How in the world did you get that bad? Girl, you ain't supposed to be the shit like that. How you go so hard, but your body's so soft. I love how you put on, but you need to take it off of me. How in the world did you get that bad? Girl, you ain't supposed to be the shit like that. That's that chick right there. That's that chick right there.
Hey, it's your girl, That Chick Crissy. I'm here with the legendary artist Kwame and also super producer.
That's only sometimes. Don't hype it up. She all in the studio. She hyping my title up.
No,
legendary, super.
Come on.
I just push buttons, man. I just turn things on and push buttons.
I'm gonna expose him shortly. Don't worry about it. I'll let you know what he's up to. Yeah, so I want to get right into it with you.
Okay.
First album.
First album.
1989.
1989. I was 16 years old.
I was a senior in high school, so again, you know when you're in high school, how much music influences you.
Yeah.
So you were one of those guys for me, which is why I really, am really happy to do this interview.
Thank you very much.
Your biggest songs off the album?
The Rhythm, and The Man We All Know and Love.
The Man We All Know and Love.
Yeah.
The Rhythm. You know, I had a Noid doll back then.
Void the Noid.
Void the Noid. Pizza Hut was doing that, right? And I actually had the little doll back then, so it was pretty funny.
I was looking for my, because I got all these toys around. I was looking for my Noid figure, and I cannot find this guy for nothing.
Actually, it was funny because before I came here, I Googled it because I wanted to remember exactly what it looked like, and it popped up. So I'm sure eBay will be your friend.
Yeah, I gotta find it. I know I have one, and I'm like,
it's here somewhere, really?
It's somewhere packed away, and I'm anal about it. If I'm not gonna rebuy something that I already have.
I hear you. How did you get Herbie Love Bug on the first album?
Well, that's the craziest misconception of my career. Herbie produced nothing on my first album. I produced the whole album. And
at 16.
Yep. What happened was, it wasn't intended that way. But Herbie's younger brother Steve was my best friend. We all went to school together, and Herbie lived maybe 4 blocks from me. And in that neighborhood, it was, the best word I can describe, it was a magical neighborhood. It was Herbie Love Bug, Kid and Play, Eric B, Cool G Rap, myself. We were all in this same neighborhood.
Wow.
And Akinelli, I know I'm forgetting somebody, but there was so many people, Freddie Fox, a lot of us were in this neighborhood. And so when Herbie started producing Salt and Pepper, I'm just the young kid that wants to get on.
Right.
So I would do things like walk my dog at odd times of the night and show up at Herbie's studio, or go to the train station, run into Dana Dane, and just follow him back to the studio, and just all this other stuff. And so what I did was I had an odd job at, I think C-Town. It's a local supermarket in New York. And I had this job at C-Town, and I collected all my paychecks. I remember I was getting $80 a week. And I collected maybe, I don't know, a month's worth of checks or whatever. I didn't eat. I walked to school. I just saved my money. And I remember it was 1988, Christmas Eve. On 1980, no, 2 days before Christmas Eve, I went to this studio in Jamaica, Queens, and I dumped all the change and everything, the money I had for my check. Like, how much time can I get with this? And he was like, well, if you come midnight, actually Christmas Day, but midnight that night, you can work from midnight to 8 in the morning. So Christmas Day, 1988, I recorded half of the first album.
Wow.
It was the only time I had. I had that 8 hours, and I recorded, I think, the songs that are on that album, I recorded The Rhythm. There's a song called The Mic Is Mine. Another song called Keep On Doing It. And something, I think The Man We All Know and Love. Those 4 songs I recorded, and then there was 3 more I did after that didn't make the album, but I recorded the bulk of that album on Christmas. And I passed it to Herbie, and Herbie was like, yo, this is crazy, I'm going to get a deal. And so he got the deal with Atlantic Records, and we were supposed to do the rest of the album, but Herbie was so busy with Sweet Tea, Salt and Pepper, and Dana Dane and Kid and Play I'm just sitting in the studio like, yo, like, what am I going to do? Y'all wasting my time. So I recorded the rest of the album, and that's how the first album happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think, but he did play a part in...
Yeah, I was in his production company. Herbie was slick. He was a double dipper. Like, I was in his production company, and he was my manager. So it was like, and he got the deal. So he got paid like 5 times.
Now, on your second album, with like one of the big boys and Only You.
Yeah.
What was the thought to titling the songs the way that you did, since they're not, you know, the normal way they're supposed to be?
You know what? It was just that when the second album rolled around, I think I was just in my zone. And I just wanted to make sure that there was no such thing as the internet or anything where you search titles and everything like that. So when you would go to the store and look for things, or when you would look up a song, it would just, or when you buy the record, you would just see these weird titles spelled phonetically instead of the way it's supposed to be spelled.
Right.
And you know, I think that was my throw to Prince. Prince used to do stuff like that, and it was like, you know, I was on some old, you know, hip hop Prince thing at the time, so it was like, that was my little nod to Prince, and just being a weirdo, man. I was doing weird stuff just to be weird.
Well, you were how old in the second album?
Second album, I was 17, 18.
Let me go back now, just to give you a little bit of where we came from. Growing up in Norwalk, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
There used to be this guy who always did, like, he dressed like Big Daddy Kane.
Okay.
And then there was this whole crew that followed the whole Kwame movement.
Okay.
They all did the pants with the polka dot shirts and the high tops and the blonde on top, like the whole
all right.
And it was funny because I had such a crush on him that I went out with a guy just because he looked like him.
She got good taste.
Shouts out to Jake. You know?
What up, Jake? Woman of good taste. He's a lucky guy.
That's just real talk. I'm sorry. I'm just keep rattling again. I was 18, so it's pretty funny. But anyway, yeah. So you had crews there who were really following what you were doing. Did you find that all over the place when you did your shows and stuff?
That's how the whole quote unquote polka dot thing really jumped off, because on my first album, the only time I had polka dots on was if you flip. Matter of fact, it's not even on the first album. I don't have any polka dots, no streak, anything in my hair on the first album. But if you get the first single, The Man We All Know and Love, I'm wearing a white polka dot shirt with black dots and a black polka dot tie with white dots. That same shirt I wear in the Man We All Know and Love video as a pair of pajamas. And those are the only 2 times that I wore polka dots.
Really? Crazy.
But the funny thing was, people took that image. You know, I would always wear my ties and, you know, my I pretty much dress the same, but I would wear that kind of stuff. But with the polka dots, for example, it wasn't anything like, oh, we're going to be Mr. Polka Dots. We're going to do the polka dots. So when we started doing shows, I remember the first show I did was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The second show. The first show I did was in Philly. Got to Philly, nobody knew who I was. They just was like, who the hell are you? Bring on Cool G Rap now. And then the second show, the next day, we go to Harrisburg, but it was a total, polar opposite of the crowd. The crowd, everybody had on polka dots.
Wow.
All the guys had on streaks. All the girls had on polka dot dresses, tight skirts and stuff like that. And so I walk on stage and I see this, and I'm like, oh, y'all fucking with me. And I just walk off stage. It's like, okay, okay, I like the joke. Somebody play the joke on me.
This is only your second show.
This is my second show.
Wow.
Like, yeah, this is fun. So I get out, and then we started doing, going down to Virginia, going up to Boston, going to Connecticut, wherever we would go, people were rocking it. And I'm like, yo, this is.
I never intended.
And if I don't have it on, people are like, yo, where's the polka dots?
Right.
Where they at? Like, what's going on? You faking? I'm like, wait, hold on. How can I be a fake me? Like, what's going on? So by the time the second album rolled around, everything was polka dot heavy, because we were catering to what the people were doing. So that's how that whole thing jumped off.
And you know, it's funny because a friend of mine, not so much a friend, I guess an acquaintance you could say, Kyle is with the retro kids, and he does your whole, I don't know if you would call it a character or not, but you know, they have the whole Big Daddy Kane and they have the Salt and Pepper, and he does Kwame, and I asked him, because I actually saw you again when you did, I think it was Talent did a throwback show.
The Apollo, and I brought them out.
Yeah, and they came out, and when I seen them together, I seen like kind of, he was, you could tell he was excited because you know, like that's something that he was. And it was great to be around you, I guess, because he does that. It was just funny because I was wondering. So, have you done things with, like, other groups who do that, or are they kind of?
Well, they were the first cats that were doing that in New York, and then it's weird. It's to this day. Well, this was the show you were talking about was I think maybe 2 years ago. To this day, especially in cities like New York, Atlanta, L.A. mainly those cities, I'll just be out in the street and like this 14-year-old full polka dots and streak will come up and freak out, and I'm like, how the hell do you know? You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't put two and two together, or you know, it's a whole movement. It's like you have, you know, remember in high school you had your thugs, you had your nerds, you had your preppies. Now in school, it's like your thugs, your nerds, your preps, and your retros.
Right.
And those kids go hard, and they'll find an artist, and they will go through their whole catalog and dress up. And so they're, like, even on my Facebook page, I'll get kids from Japan, fully streaked out, polka dotted out, different country, and they'll just send me pictures. It's just like crazy. It's like a crazy resurgence, I guess, or I don't know what to call it, but I think
legendary. That's where the legendary.
Oh, okay. Legendary. I'll take it.
Okay, so
today
you did your third album, and then you had the whole thing with Big. Like,
the third album was weird. The third album was done around the time the second album was done, and I was trying to. Pretty much the best way to describe it, pretty much everything that maybe a Kanye West does now, I was trying to do in '91, and trying to achieve that with the third album. The third album was very like heavily produced. It was just all over the place. It was just some crazy stuff, and maybe now it would be like using that formula. Would be like a dark, twisted fantasy, or like the Kanye West album. But for 1991, it was just like, what the hell are you doing? And it was recorded in '90. The label kept pushing it, so it came out in '91. And when it came out, the whole scope, it came out closer to '92. And in late '91, '92, everything was
changed.
Gutter, West Coast gangster, blah blah blah. So here I am in a suit, and then everybody's like with their bats and their lumberjacks, like, this guy over here, what the hell is he doing? You know, so you know, and I was trying to get into the musicality of everything, you know, the full band and live musicians coming in and all this crazy stuff, and you know, it just didn't work. You know, for you know, the Kwame heads, they bought it, and you know, it did what it had to do. But for the most part, it didn't work. And then when you mentioned the Big thing, that happened in '94. And, you know, looking back on it, I don't think it was a quote-unquote thing. People made it a thing.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, did you even know Big? Did you guys have any issues? Or it was just...
I didn't know him, but I knew everybody around him.
Okay.
Like, that was the funny thing. Everybody associated with, like, executive-wise, from Puff to Mark Pitts' manager, those people, even Little Kim, like, I knew these people. So I didn't take it as Biggie throwing a dart at me. I think it was a punchline.
Right.
And you know, it was a cool punchline. And I couldn't take offense to it because I wasn't wearing polka dots at the time. So if you're telling me you know, you played out like my polka dots, shits were played out. Like, I wasn't wearing them. So, but the thing that did happen was because he had such influence at the time labels and the industry or the industry tastemakers, they were dick riding and they just followed whatever he said.
Right. Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, we're not gonna listen to a new Kwame record because he's played out, because Biggie said it. Or if I'm trying to shop a beat to somebody, nah, you know, it's like if polka dots are gonna jump out the speakers and splash all over everybody. Like, don't mess with that guy over there. He's, you know, and or being, you know, I'm in a club, I'm trying to talk to girls. The record comes on, the girls looking at me like, wang this. You know, my heat was gone. So that was the only like funny thing that happened around that time.
Yeah, I mean that's all I was saying was like I know lots of times the media just takes it to a whole nother level and people take it to a whole nother level. So that was because you know the way people talk about it, like it was this whole big thing. But when you were saying that about the other misconception, I figured it was the same. You then took a break and you came back out producing.
Well, I don't think I can necessarily say I took a break. I think music took a break from me. I didn't take a break. I was still in I was still trying to get out. But for all intents and purposes, I took a break.
So when you came back, who'd you work with?
I took, in order to quote unquote come back, I literally started from square one. You know, luckily I had a name, I had a good enough reputation, so, and my music stood for itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, at the time I was living in Harlem, and I started rocking with cats that, you know, just local artists out there. You know, one of the artists that I was working with, my boy 40 Cal, who's now in Dipset, like, you know, I was working with him. I was working with a whole bunch of just different people. Mm-hmm. And people from Rockefeller, or like all these different people that live, like I was in like a area where everybody was living, where 40 was living, Cam was living, Dame was always, Jay was always around, you know, Cardan, all these people were in this area. So the word got out, like Kwame got beats. And at the same time, a good friend of mine, Rick, lived in Philly, and he had his finger on a lot of independent groups out there. Mm-hmm. So I would go between New York and Philly and push beats. And, you know, like I'd push beats for $200, $300, $500. I figure if I could sell it for $200, I could sell it for $5. If I could sell it for $5, I could sell it for $15. Right. You know, if I could sell it for $15, I could sell it for $2,000. You know, and I was just doing, I was strictly, I might as well be one of them rappers talking about how they had weight in the street or whatever, because I was moving it like that. I wasn't, you know, it was just from the bottom up. And so, a person that I actually, from my old neighborhood in Queens, his name is Ron Lawrence. Ron Lawrence used to be one of Puffy's hitmen. And Ron did Hypnotize for Biggie, he did Money, Power, Respect, he did Benjamins, he did a lot of big records for Puff. And he got wind that I was doing music, and so he was like, look, your name is shit in the industry. Like, I can't sell any beats with your name on it. Mm-hmm. Come under my production company, and I'm going to try to move these tracks. So, as a joke, I was in the studio, and they called me, like I was like a robot. I would make so many beats, and so they called me, my robot name was like K1 Million. So it was like, yo, just go by K1 Million and see if you can sell some beats. So with Ron, the first beats I sold was a record on Mary J. Blige and 3 records on LL Cool J at the same time. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh shit, I could actually sell some beats. And that K1 Million thing didn't last too long, because when I was working on one of the LL beats, L comes into the studio and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm making these beats. He's like, wait, you made these beats? I'm like, yeah. So he tells everybody, his A&R tells everybody. So then at that one time, everybody knows Kwame has beats. And there was no point in going under some disguise anymore. It was like, yo, I got beats, yeah. So that synonymous name lasted for like 3 records, 4 records.
You so I avoided my question so I can say what a super producer you are. LL Cool J, Mary J. Blige.
Yeah.
me some more.
Wow. I've worked with, and I'm going to forget, but LL, Mary J, Christina Aguilera, Keisha Cole, Fantasia, Will Smith, Missy, Tweet, 50, Lloyd Banks, M.
Who? M who?
And M.
Eminem.
Shit. Let me look up. Pussycat Dolls, JoJo. I've done film. I've done television.
Which song did you do for Will Smith?
His last record he's ever made called Switch.
That was the movie, right?
Hitch was the movie.
Oh, Hitch was the movie. Switch was the song.
Record.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you said you scored films.
Yeah, I've done Step Up, Step Up 2, Stomp the Yard. I've done music on Drumline, Fantastic Four.
And I over. What did you say? What did you say I was doing? I was over what? What did he say?
Well, that don't make me a super.
That makes you a super
somebody
producer.
that can keep his
It makes
lights
you a
on.
super producer. Yeah. Okay. Come on, they're responsible. Not only see now here we go where it's like you were such an influence in my life growing up, and now little did I know my daughter's life. So that's crazy. Like you're multi-generational.
I just basically at a very early age when I started doing this, I said to myself, I'm going to either when things went bad, I made a decision. I said I'm either going to be a old school rapper and be in that skin and hopefully try to get as much work as an old school rapper as I can, or I'm going to make this a career. And I don't, and nothing against being an old school artist, or a classic artist. I don't even want to use that term. A classic artist, but I just felt that I was built for way more than that.
Right.
And I just can't picture myself in any kind of box or with any kind of title or anything like that. I just love doing music. And that's it. All I want to do is my music and do things that I've never done before musically. So anything that comes with it, great.
So we I have a thing for producers when it comes to the brilliance that it takes. Like I'm really intrigued by everything that happens behind the scenes. That's how I am. So you can add musical. No, see, I won't even do it. But I think it's brilliant. Like if you have done all those things, like the creativity just must be insane.
Thank you. I got more to do.
You produced your first album. You said. Contrary to popular belief or whatever.
Yeah.
So would you say production was your first love? Or was it rapping?
Well, rapping was my first love, but rapping and producing fall one and the same. Because I'm from an era where my idols were Prince and Stevie Wonder. So when I would look at a Prince and a Stevie Wonder record, it would say produced, conducted, performed, and arranged by Prince or Stevie Wonder.
Right.
So when I look at that as a kid, I'm like, okay, that's what I guess I got to do.
Everything.
I have to do everything because they're doing everything, and so that's what it is.
Do you write too?
Yeah. So it's like when I see that, that's just a part of my DNA, and so, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know exactly that I was quote unquote producing or arranging or anything. I just have these ideas and I'm just gonna do it. This is the beat idea, this is the rhyme idea, I'm gonna make the beat, I'm gonna say the rhyme, and then I'm gonna keep it pushing. But like in the beginning with Hurby, I learned from him. And I still think he's one of the greatest hip hop producers. So it's like, I'm like, well, come and produce me.
Right.
Like, let's go. So everything happened more or less by default. So everything just fell into place, I guess, hopefully for the right reasons.
How do you give back? Do you have causes? Do you have charities?
Well, I give back 100 million different ways, I think. One of the things, my wife has a charity called Hip Hop for Life. And what she does is she has Hip Hop for Life is in, I think, I'm gonna say 10, 15 different schools within New York City, and they do workshops with young men and young women, whether it's self-esteem, hygiene, all the things that help children and give them the fundamentals of growing up. I think what I do when I come in, it's like, I'll give you an example. This past Martin Luther King weekend, you know, as quote unquote the National Day of Service, and what I did was rent out a studio in the city, brought young men from a particular school in Brooklyn, actually. They wanted to be rappers, they want to see what's going on, but these kids are like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and they have no outlet. They don't know what it takes, they just know what they see on the thing.
Right.
So I brought them in one day to just show them what a studio was like, show them, pull up the tracks and show them exactly what everything does. Let them mess around with it, let them see how to work. Bring in an engineer, let them talk about what engineering is, because most kids, they just know, I want to be a rapper. Right. And they don't know the ins and outs. So you just have that preliminary, yeah, exactly. You have that preliminary discussion with these kids, and you let them know what it is to have a career in music. We also bring in entertainment lawyers. We also bring in A&R people. We also bring in other people from all walks of life in the music industry or in the entertainment industry, and speak to these kids. So this is not, you know, this is what I did this weekend, but this is a year-long thing. You know, this is something I do. If I'm not busy, this is something I do every Saturday. So, so we bring the kids in, and then the second phase is that they wrote a Black History Month song. I did the track for them, I donated the track, and then I bring them in, and now I'm teaching them how to perform their song, you know, and record their song and press their song up, and let them be able to have something tangible, like, yo, this is what I came up with, and this is what I'm able to do. And that's just like one of the things, you know. Another thing that I'm going to start doing, last year between Christmas and New Year's, I was in Africa, and I went out to Ghana, and just as a trip, you know, it wasn't anything like, no real reason to go. We just wanted to go to Africa. So I go out to Africa, and I'm wearing like a, I don't know, new pair like shell toes, regular pair of cargo shorts, like a polo t-shirt or whatever, the new fitted, and I'm walking down the streets of the city city's called Accra. And I'm walking down Accra, and I'm like, yo, I feel like I have a tuxedo on.
Right.
Because of the level of poverty that's on another continent. You may see stuff like that on TV, but until you really see it, it's like, so during that time, I went back to the hotel, I got all my fitteds, all my sneakers, all my clothes, and I just was hitting the streets. I was giving clothes out, I was trading stuff, and that just hit me. I'm like, you know, I want to start some type of charity where every year around that time, I want to bring crews of people out there, and we do things like that.
Right.
You know, so I'm setting that up now. But you know, it's really not. It's cool to talk about it, but it's better to just be about it. Like, I don't want to be the guy like, yeah, my foundation is. I just want to do it, you know.
In the mix too.
Yeah, and it's fulfilling, and it just gives you a whole nother perspective about life and just the way people are living, and it treats you different. I think before I went to Africa, you know, I would rock my like diamond chains and my diamond watches and stuff like that. Yo, I don't think I've picked any of that up in over a year. And that was 2 years ago now. Like, I haven't even rocked stuff like that. You know, I wear earrings or whatever, just whatever. But other than that, like that overindulgence of just like, look what I got, blah blah. Like, that's real corny to me right now. It's super corny.
And unfortunately, that's what the industry is right now.
Yeah.
A lot, because it's so oversaturated with everything, with producers, with rappers, with promoters. I mean, everything. It's like, it's all about perception now. A lot of the guys don't even have what they're claiming to have, and it's all about, look what I got. So
yeah. So you know, gave me a whole nother point of view. So I really appreciate that. So those are some of the things, and I've been doing things like that since I first came out. I've been going to schools, I've been going to prisons, I've been going to what do you call it, like orphanages, or different things like this, just talking to kids and trying to encourage kids to just do what they want to do, because I started as a kid, and luckily I had encouragement from the home, but a lot of these kids don't. So like that's my big thing.
I mean, they say, like, some people say money changes people, but one thing I learned was money doesn't change you. Money brings out who you really are. Money just gets spent. Who you really are. Like if you're a person with a good heart and you're charitable, you're going to take that money and do good with it.
Yeah.
But if you're always nasty, you're just going to be nastier because you have money. So one question I like to ask people that kind of stumps them is to tell me something that nobody really knows about you pertaining to the business.
I actually produced the Beatles.
Did you really? I was like, wait a minute. Was it a remix? Was it a remix?
And I wrote Thriller.
He was quick. I was like, wait, did we do a remix?
One thing a lot of people don't know is that I wrote Ronnie DeVoe's rap in Poison. Nobody knows that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Another good song. You see?
And I hated it. I remember hearing that record for the first time, and I literally wrote the rap on a napkin. It was like, here, take this bullshit. Because this song sucks.
And they're killing it still. Like, that's the throwback track.
No, Poison is the ultra classic. And a lot of people don't know that. And when I tell people, they're like, get the hell out of here. It's like, yeah, I wrote it. I co-wrote Poison.
All right, current projects. What are you working on now?
Current projects. I have what I call a boutique label called Make Noise. And the project that I'm working for that label, I have an artist named Beyond Belief, and we put out one indie album a couple of years ago. We're working on the second album, but what he's doing is, like, the people that I work with, I like them to be multifaceted. I model the artists that I work with almost after myself. Like, don't just think you're gonna be one thing.
Right. You
can't rock with me if you're just gonna have that one track mind. So with Beyond Belief, what's so great about him is he's a great rapper, but he's also a great director. And he's just coming into his own as a director. So what we're doing is we're doing these crazy short videos. And we're doing about 8 to 10, well, we're actually just got finished the last one. We're doing 10 videos, and next month, every month, we're going to drop one new short video that leads up to his album. So it's almost like a trail to the album. And then after the 10th video will be the first single off of his next album. So we're working on the album now, and doing that. I just like the entrepreneurial thing of that thing. I like to do the indie stuff. Also, the actor Vin Diesel, he produced and directed a TV show called The Ropes, and it's about not necessarily his life, but it's about the lives of 4 different bouncers in New York City. And I'm doing the music for that show. Well, the show's done, so I did the music for that show, so that's about to come out. When? I don't know, don't ask me. I just do my job, get my money, and I'm gone. And then on the major side, there's an artist that we're like partners, man. This artist on Atlantic Records, her name is Loriana May. And she just got signed to Atlantic Records. We are currently working on the album now, and we have an EP on iTunes, just came out, called Love May. So if you go on iTunes, you go Loriana May or Love May, and that album, I produced the whole EP, producing the majority of the album, and her sound is like picture Marilyn Monroe singing records that Billie Holiday or Ella Fitzgerald would sing with the hardest beats ever under them. And it's like, and then like a full big band, I have a full big band behind her, full orchestra behind her,
Wow.
but with crazy beats. But it's like, and we're in Boardwalk Empire. Like all our whole style is like that whole jazz 1920s Prohibition
right.
era. It's crazy.
So how do you spell May? Is it M-A-Y or M-A-E?
LaurinaMae.
Okay, got that one more time so people see this.
LaurinaMae. Lauriana May.
Okay.
You know, she's currently on the road now. You know, she's coming around your way. Actually, we do Mohegan Sun, February 8th.
Nice.
So, you know, running around doing that. So that's like the pet baby project.
Right.
You know, so getting real good, great hits on YouTube. There's no single out yet, no video out yet, and people are already calling us for tours and stuff like that. So
Nice.
we're getting real good response on that.
Okay, how can people find you?
You just walk down the block. No. Twitter, Kwame Did It. KWAMEDIDIT. Kwame Did It. Facebook /Kwame the Boy Genius. And that's how you can find me.
Okay, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. Make sure you guys check me out on Twitter also at ThatChickCrissy, CRISSY. You can hit up my website, ThatChickNENT.com, or find me every Tuesday, radioscene.com, SEEN, 7 to 8 p.m. Peace out.
She's all over the place. She got mad stuff going on.
Trying. It's funny. It's like